Today we're going to solve radical equations and inequalities. This is Chapter 6, Section 4, Day 2. First thing we want to notice is that we already have a restriction on x. Because x is under the radical, we can't take the square root of a negative number, which means we know that x has to be greater than or equal to 0. That being said, we can add 4 to both sides. Divide by 3. We have the square root of x is less than or equal to 4. We can square both sides. X is less than or equal to 16, and we know that it is also greater than or equal to 0. Down here we start by dividing by 4. Square root of x minus 3 is less than or equal to 3. And we can square both sides. X minus 3 is less than or equal to 9. And x is less than or equal to 12. Because what's under the radical must be positive, we know that x has to be greater than or equal to 3. In this case, it doesn't matter if we have a negative under the radical because it is a cubed root, and we can take the cubed root of a negative number. So all we need to do is cube both sides. X minus 4 is less than or equal to 125. X is less than or equal to 129. Over here, we know that x has to be greater than or equal to 0, and then we can solve this. So 7 times the square root of x is less than 8. Divide by 7. The square root of x is less than 8/7. We can square both sides. X is less than or equal to 64 over 49. And x is greater than or equal to 0. There's no restrictions on x in this case, other than what we solved for, because you can take the cube root of a negative number. So we're going to divide by -2. Remember that in an inequality, when we divide by a negative number, we have to reverse our sign. We cube both sides. Left with x plus 8 is greater than -125. X is greater than -133. Over here we have -3/4. The square root of x minus 2 is greater than or equal to 3. We're going to multiply each side by a -4/3. We're left with the square root of x minus 2 is less than or equal to, remember we have to flip our sign, -4. This is where we stop because the square root of something can never be equal to a negative number, nor can it be less than what is already a negative number, so we know that there are no real solutions. Now we're going to solve systems. Remember that we can solve systems by substitution, elimination, or graphing. In this case, since we have y equal to something, we're going to substitute. So we're going to substitute x plus 5 in for our y. This equals 4x plus 17. We can FOIL out our left side. X squared plus 10x plus 25 equals 4x plus 17. Move everything over, so x squared plus 6x plus 9 equals 0. This factors into x sorry, not plus 9, plus 8. So this factors into x plus 4 and x plus 2. So x equals -2 and -4. Now we need to find our corresponding y values. So if we plug -2 back in, we get 3. So we have the point -2, 3. And if we plug in -4, we get 1. So these are our two solutions. At this point, I would encourage you to check your answer on a calculator so you can graph both of these. We need to put them into our calculator as y equals, so we need to take the the first one and change it to y equals. If we do that, we get y equals plus or minus the square root of 4x plus 17. So then we can plug these equations into our calculator, hit second trace, and then calculate the intersection. And you can find the two spots where the two lines intersect. And you should get negative 2, 3 and negative 4, 1. This is a similar problem. We're going to substitute in. So we have x squared plus negative 3/4 x plus 25/4. And that whole quantity is squared. That equals 25. We'll have to FOIL out what we just have there. We get x squared plus 9/16 x squared minus 150 over 16x plus 625 over 16 equals 25. We can combine these two terms, so we are left with 25/16 x squared minus 150/16 x plus 625 over 16 equals 25. We can multiply both sides by 16. So that way we can get rid of our 16s across all of the denominators here. So we have 25x squared minus 150x plus 625 equals 400. We can divide everything by 25 or multiply by 1/25. Then we're just left with x squared minus 6x plus 25 equals 16. If we move our 16 over, we have x squared minus 6x plus 9 equals 0. This factors into x minus 3 times x minus 3. So we know x equals 3. When we plug that back in, we get the point 3, 4. And then once again, we're going to check it in our calculators. So the second equation we can easily put in as y equals. The first equation we need to switch to the form y equals. So we're left with y equals plus or minus the square root of negative x squared plus 25. And we can plug those in our calculator. Second trace, calculate the intersection, and you will get the point 3, 4. And that's all.